I don't want to be hard on anyone. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since your mother died, I've lived part of the time with you, Melia, and part with you, Lizzie, as well. Well, I shall make a new will, leaving all my bits of things to whomever I'm living with when I die. How does that strike you? These lines tell us about a father's grief towards the treatment he met by his daughters. But what brought him to this situation? Why is he in this state of pathos? Well, the answer to these questions lie in the heartwarming play called The Dear Departed. Hello, and I welcome you to a brand new session of English literature where we are going to read the play The Dear Departed, written by William Stanley Hougton. Before we start reading the play, let me introduce you to its writer. The writer of this play, William Stanley Hougton, was a famous English dramatist. In every play of his, he sought to present an idea. He was a prominent member of a group of playwrights known as the Manchester School of Dramatics. His plays are set locally in northern England, but represent universal aspects of human nature. Hougton gave up his office job in 1912 to become a full-time dramatist and moved to London. Here he became a part of the city's dramatic and literary culture. The following year he moved to Paris, where he started to write a novel entitled Life. One of his famous books is Hindle Wakes, and other works done by him are Younger Generation and many more. He had a remarkable gift for dialogue that is evident in The Dear Departed. The Dear Departed was first produced in Manchester in 1908. Here Hougton satirizes the degradation of moral values in the British middle class. Now let's read the play and understand the details. The Dear Departed by William Stanley Hougton. The scene is the sitting room of a small house in a lower middle class district of a provincial town. On the spectator's left is the window with the blinds down. A sofa is in front of it. On his right is a fireplace with an armchair by it. In the middle of the wall facing the spectator is the door into the passage. To the left of the door, a cheap, shabby chest of drawers. To the right, a sideboard. In the middle of the room is a table with chairs round it. Ornaments and a cheap American clock are on the mantelpiece. In the hearth, a kettle. By the sideboard, a pair of gaudy new carpet slippers. The table is partly laid for tea, and the necessaries for the meal are on the sideboard, as also are copies of an evening paper and of Titbits and Pearson's Weekly. Turning to the left through the door takes you to the front door to the right, upstairs. In the passage, a hat stand is visible. When the curtain rises, Mrs. Slater is seen laying the table. She is a vigorous, plump, red-faced, vulgar woman, prepared to do any amount of straight talking to get her own way. She is in black, but not in complete mourning. She listens for a moment and then goes to the window, opens it, and calls into the street. Mrs. Slater, sharply, "Victoria, Victoria, do you hear? Come in, will you?" Mrs. Slater closes window and puts the blind straight and then returns to her work at the table. Victoria, a precocious girl, often dressed in colors, enters. Mrs. Slater, "I'm amazed at you, Victoria, I really am. How you can gallivanting about in the street with your grandfather lying dead and cold upstairs, I don't know. Be off now and change your dress before your Aunt Elizabeth and your Uncle Ben come. It would never do for them to find you in colors." Victoria, "What are they coming for? They haven't been here for ages." Mrs. Slater, "They're coming to talk over poor grandpa's affairs. Your father sent them a telegram as soon as we found he was dead." A noise is heard. "Good gracious, that's never them." Mrs. Slater hurries to the door and opens it. "No, thank goodness, it's only your father." Henry Slater, a stooping, heavy man with a drooping moustache, enters. He is wearing a black tailcoat, grey trousers, a black tie, and a bowler hat. He carries a little paper parcel. Henry: Not come yet, eh? Mrs. Slater: You can see they haven't, can't you? Now, Victoria, be off upstairs, and that quick. Put your white frock on with a black sash. Victoria goes out. Mrs. Slater to Henry: I'm not satisfied, but it's the best we can do till our new black's ready, and Ben and Elizabeth will never have thought about mourning yet, so we'll outshine them there. Henry sits in the armchair by the fire. Get your boots off, Henry. Elizabeth's that prying she notices the least speck of dirt. Henry: I'm wondering if they'll come at all. When you and Elizabeth quarrelled, she said she'd never set foot in your house again. Mrs. Slater: She'll come fast enough after her share of what grandfather's left. You know how hard she can be when she likes. Where she gets it from, I can't tell. So, at the very beginning of the play, Hougton has given detailed stage directions for this one-act play. As stated in the description of the setting, the action takes place in a provincial town on a Saturday afternoon. The scene is the sitting room of a small house in a lower middle-class district of a provincial town. The simple furniture that includes a cheap, shabby chest of drawers, the cheap American clock on the mantelpiece, the pair of gaudy new carpet slippers, and the popular magazines Titbits and Pearson's Weekly are indications of the lower middle-class lifestyle of the inhabitants of this house. Mrs. Amelia Slater is laying the table. The Slaters are under the impression that Mrs. Amelia Slater's father is lying dead in his room. They are now awaiting the arrival of Mrs. Elizabeth Jordan, the other daughter of the old man, and her husband, Ben, who they had sent a telegram about the old man's death. The daughter of the Slaters, Victoria, a precocious girl of 10 years, is still playing outside in the street. Mrs. Slater goes to the window and calls her daughter. The little girl is in colors, but her mother is in black, although not in her complete mourning. The mother shouts at the girl because of her colored clothes and hurries her up to wear some suitable dress. Her idea is that the little girl in colors will give her sister and her brother-in-law an opportunity to criticize the Slaters for not being properly dressed on such a solemn occasion. In fact, here, an element of competition is seen in her relationship with her sister. By this time, Henry Slater, a stooping, heavy man with a drooping moustache, enters. He is wearing a black tailcoat, grey trousers, a black tie, and a bowler hat. Mrs. Slater is preparing to outshine the Jordans by dressing properly for the occasion. TutorMate. For more amazing video lectures, download the free app on the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.